Well, it's been a pretty mixed day of weather across many areas of the UK. Thanks for clicking on to the Saturday edition of Vogan's European Outlook. I was out in the garden doing some late winter maintenance, doing some tidying up, raking up leaves, doing some trimming of the trees out in the back garden, etc., etc. Trying to get the things a little bit more organised and tied up ahead of spring. Speaking of spring, we may have a taste of that towards the latter half of the upcoming work week. All the while, we've got a piece of the tropospheric polar vortex descending down the spine of the United States, and we could see some of the coldest weather of the entire season so far driving into the lower 48. So you can see here, this is off the ECMWF, the 850 anomalies looking at North America and exceptionally mild conditions up across the Arctic of Canada, into Greenland, into the Arctic itself. But as we play through this loop here, you can see that we've got this piece of the vortex descending down the plains. Temperatures 25, 30 Celsius below average at 850 millibars, and exceptional warmth as well across the top of Canada and into the Baffin Straits. This map in itself is extreme. Really, really is incredible to see the contrast here between 30 above average versus 30 below average at the 5,000 foot level. And we are going to see that they descend south all the way down into Texas here as we progress through the upcoming work week. More on that in tomorrow's live stream. I have created the video for that. You can there will be a link in the description below, so you can click on that, hit the notification bell as well, so you don't forget once that goes live at 4 o'clock tomorrow afternoon. So we've got this southward plunge of the polar vortex within the troposphere over North America, and while we're seeing that take place, unfortunately, on our side of the Atlantic, I say unfortunate, it's if snow lovers want to see cold weather, this is unfortunately the opposite of what you're going to be wanting to see here. This is the temperatures of the ECMWF 850s as of Friday midnight here, and we've got some exceptionally milder getting driven northwards here. Deep area of low pressure into the 950s and millibars. To the west, we've got the other piece of the tropospheric polar vortex over Eastern Europe and into western portions of Asia. If we look at the anomaly here, you can see that we've got the temperatures in Celsius plus 12 versus minus 8 here. So 12 above versus 8 to 10 below average. Again, this is at 5,000 feet above the surface here. But we are going to see a very, very gradual warm-up taking place. While we're seeing temperatures in the mid-levels of the atmosphere start to warm up here, plus 5 Celsius, for example, now starting to move across southwestern portions of the UK and also Ireland and Northern Ireland as well. As a consequence of that, we are seeing the temperatures coming up here. This is the current temperatures at the time of recording, which is what time is it? About 20 to 6 in the evening on this Saturday, the 16th or 15th, should I say, of February. Looking specifically at the UK, and you can see here that the temperature is still barely above freezing in a few spots in the east, while we've got the plus 7 and 8 Celsius in parts of Wales down into the southwest. We've got 11s and 12s down across southwestern Ireland here, while we've got the 3 or 4 Celsius in eastern portions of Northern Ireland here. So we've got quite a mixed temperature profile. But if you look at the 850s here, you can see that we are right on that boundary. And in fact, some of the colder of the continent actually kind of pulls slightly westwards as we begin the new working week here. And that is creating quite the boundary. Temperatures are going to be slow to recover. Temperatures by nighttime, probably close to the freezing mark. We'll have a risk of ice, especially where we've had precip through the course of today and temperatures have been subdued. But we also have the possibility of seeing temperatures struggling 3-4 Celsius over the next couple of days here. But it's once we progress towards the middle and second half of the upcoming work week, we are going to see big changes taking place. This is the latest visible satellite image, and you can see high pressure still in control across southern portions of Norway. This really has been one of those patterns, by the way, that was ideal, but we just simply did not have the cold air mass over over Central Europe here to tap into. We did have a modest brand of chill coming in from the east throughout the past 7 days here. The UK temperatures are below average for the month of February. It's been a very dry February for many areas of the UK as well, which is quite interesting. This comes off the back of a dry January, especially across the north, wetter across the south. And with a likely dry February following the dry January, especially across, like I say, the northern half of the UK, we could start to pick up some issues with regards to a lack of moisture within the ground, and that will get looked at. We're going to look at that in the next week or so as well, because we're going to get just ever so gradually start to introduce chat with regards to the spring and even early seeds regarding a summer idea. It's all very primitive at this moment in time. I've not got really any real ideas with regards to the summer just yet, but certainly coming off a La Nina winter, a dry deficit during the mid to second half of the winter season perhaps comes into play with regards to atmospheric pressure and even influence on temperature as we move towards the early portions of the summer. So these are all things that are getting looked at, but we've got some chilly air nonetheless across Central and Eastern Europe here, slightly milder than across the southwest. We've got a deep area of low pressure spinning over the Atlantic. That is trying to pull milder into the UK from the southwest. It's coming up against a wall of cold air that is going to gradually get chipped away. And there is obviously this collision in air masses. So looking at the current situation of the Met Office model here, you can see that the moisture across the bulk of England and Wales was largely of rain across Ireland as well. Perhaps a little bit of winteriness in the parts of East Anglia as that moisture runs into the colder air east of the Pennines and over the southeast of the country overall. Still having this feed of showers moving in on a southwesterly breeze off a chilly North Sea. Temperatures 5 to 7 Celsius at best over the North Sea surface. So therefore those winds blowing in feeling quite raw. Obviously would have been a lot rawer if we had a much colder continent. I really do think that this winter would have been running below average overall, despite the warm December, had it not been for the fact that we've just simply not got any colder over Europe to tap into. We certainly would have been talking about a much more pronounced easterly flow. The dew points actually were running quite low throughout the course of the week, but the air temperature itself wasn't overly cold. But had the air mass been colder by maybe 3, 4, 5 degrees, anywhere from the 850 level all the way down to the surface, you probably would have been talking about snow and land snow through many parts of eastern UK during the past week to 10 days. And that certainly would have created a very different outcome with higher pressure, lighter winds. We did see temperatures close to minus 10 at Aviemore a couple of nights ago. Had there been a much more impressive setup overall, colder air mass and snow-covered ground, probably would have been seeing temperatures into the teens below freezing easily with this overall situation. So it's one of those kind of disappointing scenarios where we did have a good setup, but we just did not have the cold to work with here. And then as we continue to play it through, you can see here, again, a lack of moisture here all the way out to Tuesday, middle portions of next week. That moisture then runs into a fairly dry air mass, and there is not a great deal to speak about in terms of precipitation. Let's have a look and see what the snow depth chart looks like off the Met Office model. By the way, there is a tremendous lack of snow cover across the UK here, but this comes in stark contrast to what we've seen in January. We've seen a real lack of snow cover during the month of January, a real deficit across the majority of the European continent. But this is off the Rutgers Snow Lab, and you can see here this is a departure from normal for the month of January in terms of snowfall. And you can see this mixture of above versus below average across the majority of Asia here. But then once you got into Europe, you have to kind of tilt your head left slightly to see, because it's looking side on here. But the UK, interesting enough, the majority of the UK and Ireland was actually above average for snowfall over the month of January 2025. Then, once you get into the near continent, it was below average. So, this is quite interesting. A very, very lack of snow and even snow cover in the mountains, for example, of the Highlands. But, this is coming off what was an above average January in terms of snow for the bulk of the UK and Ireland here. So very interesting things to look at here, and this could be quite problematic in terms of just a simple lack of snowfall. We're in the middle of February. We're still in winter, but we've not got an awful lot of snow cover to speak about. Our good friend Richard Trott sent me this in a little earlier, looking at the synoptics here for the winter overall. So this is how the upper levels were looking really from the 1st of December right the way through to the 13th of February. And quite interesting, actually, the amount of high pressure that has been present over the UK, Ireland, and across Europe. We've also had another area of strong high pressure over Alaska. And obviously, with what's going on in North America, we had the coldest January since '94. And we're going to see another major shot of colder. February could end up turning out to be colder than average east of the Rockies, for example. And if that's the case, this has been the coldest winter probably since the 90s overall. And you can see the trough over eastern Canada and the northeastern United States. Western portions of the country above average heights, and that extends up into Alaska. We've also got above average heights, like I say, over the UK, Ireland, and much of Europe. This is for February so far. And again, there's that block to the north. Had we had a lot of cold air to the south, we probably would have been talking about a much different, maybe a February 2021, for example, if there had been colder in place. So very interesting stuff. This is for the month of January. We did have that block over Greenland here. We had a deep negative. The most negative anomaly was actually an extension out of North America, as can be seen here. We've got neutral heights over the UK and Ireland, which is interesting. And then we had above average heights over eastern and southeastern portions of the continent here. So these are all going to be built into a look back at the winter and a scoring of how the winter forecast did versus the reality. So lots of things going on as always here on the channel. So while we might be counting down the days to springtime, meteorologically speaking, I would greatly encourage you, if you can stick around, please hit that subscribe button because it's absolutely free. There is still content 7 days a week here on the channel, and I'm looking at all different aspects and interesting aspects at that. So anyway, we've got this deep surge of Arctic air drilling down North America. All the while we've got the westerly winds, southwesterly winds that are going to be driving in some very, very spring-like conditions during the mid to latter half of the upcoming work week. All the while, that secondary piece of the polar vortex, while it's split within the troposphere, one piece into North America, one piece into Eastern and Central Asia, and we're seeing some of the coldest air of the season moving into eastern areas of the continent. So this is the 2 meter temperatures of the ECMWF for early Friday of next week. So we definitely could be talking about temperatures in the mid-teens, for example. So you can see here a lack of snow cover over the next 24 hours or so here. We did have a wintry mix, rain, sleet, snow, and even some freezing rain, I believe, it did occur in some parts of central and eastern England, if I'm right in saying that. Hopefully I am. Looking at the 850s then, so you can see the big contrast here. Massive contrast, in fact, between the south and southwest of the UK versus the northeast of the UK here. So this is as we move through the course of today. Just bear with me a little second here. And you can see here that we've got this fight here between -6, -7 at 850 versus +5 Celsius down in the southwest, largely 2, 3, 4 Celsius across Ireland here, continuing to play through. And you can see here that we actually do have that little bit of a shove to the west of that air mass here. So we are kind of trying to push back the Atlantic once again, but eventually that will win out. You can see here even colder temperatures close to -10 according to the Met Office model, moving into parts of eastern England as we move towards the early hours of Monday morning. Continue to play through, and eventually you can see here that this milder air wins that battle, and with the help of some sunshine, southwesterly winds, and temperatures 5, 6 to 10 Celsius at 8:50, you could see surface temperatures considerably milder than that as well. So speaking of surface temperatures, let's have a look and see how it's looking over the next wee while or so. So we're going to be looking, by the way, at the precipitation anomalies and a look back at the winter overall. Let me know in the comment section below as well, what have you thought of the overall winter? Has it been disappointing? Has it been cold? Has it been mild? Has it been a little bit in between? I think it's been a pretty average winter overall. There has been some cold spells. There's been some mild spells. We've had a couple of named storms as well. Obviously, Eowyn was quite a noteworthy storm. And is it done? That's going to be the question. We still have the month of March, and March can be quite an interesting month. I'm going to be looking at the month of March specifically in the upcoming work week as well, so stay tuned for that. But you can see here as we play through the course of tomorrow, Sunday, temperatures again struggling to reach 5 or 6 Celsius, thanks to that chillier air continuing to drift back westwards for a time, temporarily at least. This is the early hours of Monday morning here, so again, sub-freezing temperatures across many areas of northern UK, as can be seen here. Play through the loop here, and you can see here, even as we move into the day on Tuesday, we're still holding on to the chill, but you notice here that we're starting to see the temperatures rise across south and southwestern areas of the UK. We're up close to double figures quite widely across Ireland and Northern Ireland by the time we reach the latter half of Tuesday. Continue to play through, and then as we move into the latter half of the week here, so this is actually mid next week, Wednesday at 15Z, and we've actually got the 10 to 12 Celsius anywhere from Inverness across to Elgin here widely. Temperatures into the mid to upper single figures, but where you've got the help of southwesterly winds, we're seeing the Fern effect taking place, and the temperatures respond to the lee of high ground. So it looks as if we've got a chilly start to the upcoming week, but a much milder end to the upcoming week. Be sure to hit that like button, share with your friends and family, and subscribe to the channel. And I'll be back tomorrow at 4 p.m. with the live stream looking at all things global. Enjoy the rest of your Saturday. Bye for now.